welcome to Behind the ABA Talk podcast, where we have heart-to-heart conversations with ABA experts, thought leaders, and changemakers. Each episode unpacks the stories, insights, and behind-the-scenes realities that shaped our experts' professional journeys. I'm your host, Lisa Gurdon, founder of Ellis Gurdon Consulting, and I am thrilled to partner with Behavior Live co-founder and WIBA executive director Janet Lund to launch a special podcast series highlighting some of the amazing speakers and innovative talks that will be shared at the upcoming Women Behaving Boldly conference. Hi, Janet. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, hi, Lisa. I'm just honored to be here. Thank you for having me and for partnering with us and for highlighting some of, like you said, these incredible powerhouse women that are presenting at our conference January 15th and 16th. I am so excited for today and to learn more about Dr. Nancy Marchese and just all the amazing work that she's done, and to just spend time with you, Lisa.
So fun. So fun. Can you just tell us really quickly about WIBA and a little
Sure.
background information about the conference to kind of set the scene? And then we'll introduce our special guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, WIBA is Women in Behavior Analysis. It's a conference that happens every July since 2017. And we love that conference, and it's an opportunity for us to get together and learn and have community. And this year we're having that conference in Chicago. But one of the things we realized was once a year just didn't feel often enough to get together and learn and be a community. But given that travel is hard and you're not going to go to two conferences a year for WIBA, we thought, why don't we do a virtual conference? And that's how Women Behaving Boldly came about. And this year, I'm just so excited about it because we've decided to do 2 days, two tracks. So that's 22 different speakers that people are going to get to hear. These are incredible. They're all women and one man, Dr. Bruce Tenor, who's one of our advisory board members. But we're really highlighting the work that these women are doing, and we talk about the conference, or we call the conference "Women Behaving Boldly," because really all of these women are taking our science and behaving in ways that are powerful and innovative and authentic and genuine, and really taking um, what they do so well and bringing it out into the world in a way that is affecting positive change. And so each of these speakers are an invited speaker. So there's no open call for papers like we have in our July conference. These are women that our advisory board and our conference committee said, we want to hear from them. What they're doing and what they have to say is important for people to hear. And so I'm just so excited about every single one of our speakers. And by the way, listeners, Lisa is one of our invited speakers too. So I just am so excited and so excited to spend today getting to know one of our amazing speakers in not just the academic big brain side of her, but the also human side of her. So I'm just thrilled.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I am honored to be part of the conference and honored to do this podcast with you, Janet. And let's introduce our guest. Dr. Nancy Marchese is the CEO and founder of Breakthrough Autism Center and a leading expert in applied behavior analysis. She began her work in autism services in 1998 and has since supported hundreds of children and families across Ontario. A clinical psychologist and BCBAD, Nancy earned her PhD in behavior analysis from Endicott College and is known for integrating the latest research into meaningful family-centered care. She's published in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis, presented internationally, and received multiple awards from the Ontario Association for Behavior Analysis, where she also served as past president. Nancy is a collaborative leader, passionate about empowering families and building strong, evidence-based teams to support children with autism. Welcome to the show, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Such an honor. I've been a long-standing fan and supporter of WIBA, so I'm thrilled to be here today.
Wonderful.
We're
Well,
thrilled to have you. I'm so
yes,
excited you said yes, and I can't wait to learn from you at WIBA. So thank you for saying yes and for, being, I often say we are WIBA. Well, the three of us, we are WIBA, and that's what makes WIBA so special. Just this group of incredible humans that say, you know what, I love behavior analysis. I also want a community, and this is a place to sort of get both of those. So thank you both for helping shape who and what WIBA is and being a part of the community.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, Nancy, can you tell us about your professional journey? I want to hear how you are doing all of this incredible work and what inspires you. Please tell us.
Yeah. Well, started back, as you mentioned, 1998, a while back. I was doing my undergrad in a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and didn't really know what I was going to do with my life, to be frank. Um,
Mhm.
but I was interested in psychology, in particular child development, and trying to figure out like what am I going to do that actually matters. I was compelled to try to find a meaningful path. And actually, one of my friends at the time, I lived with six other girls. We lived in a house all together. Undergrad, we're still friends to this
That's
day, right? That
amazing.
says something.
Great.
She came home with a flyer from a class that she was taking in like special populations. And she said, "Oh, there's like these, two, at the time there was no such thing as registered or board certified
Mhm.
behavior analysts. Now in Ontario, we have registered behavior analysts, which is very exciting. So there was no such designation, there was no certification. And so, people found their way into behavior analysis through different paths. And in this case, psychology, there was two psychologists that were effectively practicing ABA. I did not know any of this at the time. I just got this flyer. My friend said, "You like kids, and these psychologists are looking for people to work with kids with autism." And back then, to be frank, a lot of people didn't even know what
Mm-mm.
autism was. And I often date myself by using this reference, but this was the case. If anyone knew anything about autism, it was from the movie Rain Man. A
Mhm.
lot of folks back then. That was really like the
Yeah.
biggest contact that, the community at large had. So I just applied. I don't know why. Though that's kind of interesting. I guess the flyer compelled me, and I applied, and I don't know how I got the position, but somehow I got this position to do what so many of us do right now, which I consider such a wonderful blessing, which was to work with kids with autism, delivering frontline ABA, whatever that's called. Now we have our RBTs and whatnot. Back then, again, those designations didn't exist, and you learned as you went. And the incredible, and I had no, aspirations to make this a career. I just thought this was like a cool job. I worked every Saturday in my undergrad, which just says something in itself, right? Even on the occasional late night Friday night, I still woke up in the morning and
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
went to this family's house. And, I didn't know what was to come of it, but the incredible thing to me was watching the science like unfold in front of my eyes. So I did start to take some more learning. At the time they called them like learning courses,
Mhm.
different folks that were teaching different variants of ABA, but again, it didn't have the broad spread educational opportunities that we have now. But I was learning, and then I was, working initially with one client, and like, holy moly, like this works. Like it was just like, we taught him PACs, or the MANS was a big one. Toilet training was a really pivotal moment, obviously for the child and the family, but also for me as a young professional. And I didn't know where it was going to take me, but I knew I really loved it. And from there, just continued in the field and eventually got my master's through the University of Nevada, Reno. Was very
Mhm.
blessed. They actually had a cohort here in Toronto, Canada. This is a long time ago, before online learning. They
Wow.
had this incredible program. It was called a satellite master's program, and good on them for, helping to advance the field, because they set up shop in a number of different communities, including Chicago. From what I understand, there was a cohort in Chicago before us. And they did a cohort in Toronto. And because of that incredible, foresight, I guess, there was a couple people who at the time were board certified behavior analysts. And then when we all graduated, there was, I don't remember the exact number, but maybe about 40 of us that all of a
Mhm.
sudden were board certified behavior analysts in
Wow.
Ontario. And I've lost track now, but I'm pretty sure it's over 1,600 BCBAs now in Ontario. So,
It's
it's just,
amazing.
it's just been a blessing. I say I'm so blessed and so fortunate to go to work every day
Mhm.
and make a difference in an individual's life every single day. And now I have a team of wonderful, incredible professionals, and they too get to do that. And then got to do my doctorate through Endicott, which was an incredible blessing as well, and learn how to integrate science into the real world. And that's really what I do. But it's really about making a meaningful difference. So that's the true blessing in all this, in this whole journey.
Absolutely. It really is a blessing. I love how you say it that way, right? Like it really, I feel so fortunate as well. Like this fell
Mhm.
in my lap too in a similar way. And oh my gosh, look at this opportunity that we have and this blessing, like you said, to affect real change for individuals and families and schools and communities. It is a blessing.
And I
Absolutely.
think you guys sometimes, when you think about those of us who are doing or have done direct work in our lives, there are days that, I don't know about you, but there were days that I would say, oh, I am so good at this. Like, I did something great today. This was awesome. And then there are days that, I'm driving home and I'm like, okay, today was a tough day. Today
Yeah.
was not my best work, or it was just I learned a hard lesson, but no matter which one it was, I always felt like when my head hit the pillow at the end of the day, there was this sense of um, just gratitude that I get to do what I get to do, right? That I had, number one, the privilege of being an educated person, but finding behavior analysis and then getting to actually make meaningful change. Like it is a very fulfilling thing
Mhm.
that we get the honor and privilege to
Mhm.
do. So thank you for talking about that, Nancy, because sometimes there are a lot of tough days. And now being a medical model, we have all the pressures of funding and how do we get paid and dealing with lots of red tape. And so I think sometimes it's easy to lose the forest for the trees because we forget like the big picture. So thank you for anchoring us to that.
I'm wondering, Nancy, considering, all of that and all of the challenges that we experience, there's very high burnout rate in our field. And and I'm wondering for you, how do you have that resilience? How do you maintain that resilience to
Hmm.
continue in this work? Given, the longer you're in it, the more hard days you have, right? Because this is hard work. And how do you build that resilience?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I appreciate, Janet, what you said about there are hard days and the reality of that. I think it's important for people to understand that that is real. That's normal. It's not all
Hmm.
sunshine and
Yes.
rainbows.
Very.
Yes, what we do is very powerful. And, there are so many important differences that we have the opportunity to make. It does come with the journey of the challenges.
Hmm.
In a sense, and I, chat with a lot of professionals that are entering into the field, our wonderful team included, but even beyond. And in a sense, that makes the journey or the outcomes even sweeter, right? Because you get through,
Yes.
like, when you're
Yes.
early
Yes.
on, I spend a lot of time with the frontline staff, encouraging them to say, okay, so you're going to remember these moments. And then when this child or teens, we work with a lot of teens too, and, when they learn that skill or when there's a significant reduction in challenging behavior, because they can do X, Y, and Z instead, there are alternatives for them that are so much more adaptive and can make such a wonderful difference and improve the quality of their life. you're going to remember these days, and it's going to be real sweet when you get to the end. And so I
Yes.
think that's part of it is for us to contact our reinforcers. I think that that's understanding
Yes.
what our reinforcers are, and they're all idiosyncratic for every professional, and making sure you contact them. I think that becomes even more important as if you move through your professional journey into supervisory or management or operational aspects of the job. It's easier to lose sight, I think, at times, because you kind of get, I mean, I'm in a, an operations clinical position now within my own business. And so I do try to contact the reinforcers. And then on the flip
Hmm.
side, you give yourself grace. I mean, people say this often, you give yourself
Yes.
a break, you disconnect in your own way. Reinforcers outside of the field are also, I think, important.
Mhm.
Many of my friends I have wonderful friends in ABA, and I have a bunch of friends who quite frankly know nothing about ABA, and it's cool too because we just hang,
Yeah.
we have some
Yeah.
girl time or whatever. Oh, we're going to do that over the holidays. So I think it's a mix of both. And I'll end on this. So many years ago, I attended a panel. This was before Women in Behavior Analysis, a long time ago. There used to be this panel discussion at ABAI. It was something like women in I don't even remember the name of the panel. Something like women in ABA, and they had, different speakers every year. It was like a mini, pre-game show to WIBA. So WIBA is like this and
Mhm.
exponentially, even more wonderful. And one of the panelists was Bridget Taylor. This was many years ago,
Mhm.
and I was so blessed to hear her speak about her professional journey. And one thing that she said, and I was very early on in my career, and I'll never forget that she said this, was, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially that she highlighted the importance of being able to identify your professional reinforcers and
Mhm.
try to contact them daily. And her
Hmm.
example at the time was, and running Alpine herself, that she would at times just take a walk through her center and, just see what some of the kids were learning, or, what the staff were doing. And so I do try to remember that on some hard days, just like take a
Hmm.
walk and see, because you'll always find the good. And so I think that was like incredible
Yeah.
advice. I was blessed to hear that from her. And I took that throughout my career.
Such a good reminder. And it reminds me of something that, so one of the things that we do at WIBA is we have a Hall of Fame where we induct women who have, that we're all standing on their shoulders and the work that they did to pave the road for us in the field. But this last year, it was so amazing because we inducted Lynn McClanahan and Patricia Krantz from, I know, talk about two
Mhm.
powerhouses, from Princeton Child Development Institute. And as I was interviewing people who knew them, like their mentees, Dawn Townsend, who is now on our Hall of Fame committee, said something that I thought was so amazing. And she said that Pat would often say to her, "You are in charge of your own reinforcement." Meaning, we often talk about, "Oh, I don't like this job because I'm not getting enough reinforcement." And Pat would say to Dawn, "Look, if you're feeling like you're not getting enough reinforcement, you know about behavior analysis. You need to engineer opportunities where you can earn and access reinforcement." And so, Nancy, you bring, like, hearing that advice that you heard from Bridget early in your career, it reminds me of that, if we frame it and say, okay, if I don't know what my reinforcers are, maybe I should take a hot minute and really try
Mhm.
and determine, where am I spending my time and my energy? What fills me up? What are the things, that I believe might function as reinforcers for my behavior? But then thinking about, you know, maybe you're on an intermittent schedule, but how do you make sure that you can access those and find them, just like you're saying, like, be very deliberate. That is
Mhm.
not selfish. You know how they always say you have to put your mask on first. accessing your own reinforcement is not a selfish thing, right? If you burn out and your behaviors decrease,
Yeah.
we can't be effective leaders. We can't be effective interventionists for our clients. Like, so I think that that's just such
Mm-hmm.
powerful advice, Nancy, to continue to think
Mm-hmm.
about, especially as we're getting to the end of the year and like, you think back about the year and you plan for the next, like maybe a good thing for all of us to think about is, okay, how am I going to access those reinforcers in
Mm-hmm.
the new year? You should come to WIBA, Women Behaving Boldly. That's one. But
Yeah.
beyond that, like, how could
Yes.
we really, you know, engineer our lives so that we're accessing those reinforcers and making sure we're
Yes.
taking a walk through our clinic or whatever it is?
Absolutely.
And I think for those of us who are in supervisory roles or in leadership roles, we need to model that and talk about
Mhm.
that
Yes.
with our
Yes.
colleagues and our supervisees and our staff at all levels, because we all work really, really, really hard. And
Mhm.
so I think we have a responsibility to ourselves and to each other to help support that resilience and help to give us reinforcers, um,
Yes.
make them accessible to each other, and that's partly
Yes.
why the podcast, because we need ongoing inspiration and reinforcement from others. And so if we can just listen to someone's story and how they do what they do, then I think it can propel us forward, and particularly on those hard days where you're just exhausted and nothing went right that day, and to just
Yeah.
acknowledge that we all have those moments and we need each other. I firmly believe that we need each other to support us. And I love having WIBA in this upcoming conference to really give us a platform and a space, to do that. And I think it's just amazing. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation. It's really, really essential to keep it in the forefront, not just like, oh yeah, we should take care of, oh yeah, take care of ourselves. Oh yeah, right. No, 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 no. This is going to be a very big part of what we do, on a
Yeah.
daily basis.
And self-care is not selfish, right? I mean, it is not selfish to
Don't.
take care of yourself. It is not selfish to take that time, whether it's, you know, exercise or read or whatever it is that fills your own bucket.
Mhm.
And I think, I don't know about you guys, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Sometimes I think we need to be also careful about our own verbal behavior when we
Yes.
talk about how busy I am or how I'm doing, because, I think especially as leaders, people listen, right? So, Nancy, I would love to hear as a CEO and leader, you know, this thought that you model not just by what you do, but also by what you say. I mean, all of those are behaviors that your team looks to you, right? And so, thinking about the weight of that, I'd love just your thoughts on how you approach that and how you think about that as a leader.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, very, I think an important consideration. Um, one piece, I think there's multiple, considerations here. One may be that it is okay to talk about things that are hard. I think that that's very
Yes.
important. It is
Sure.
important, like we do this whole successes and celebrations at many of our meetings. And that's very important to our team to celebrate successes. And then, the second item we always have on our agenda is word on the street. What's the word on the street? What's happening? And word on the street can be like, this is really tricky. Or this was a particularly challenging day, or we're missing this, or, so and so needs a break or whatever. I don't know. I can, that's like the sky's the limit. And I think not talking about it can be
Hmm.
Mm.
or overly, I don't know how to just explain this like better than just kind of sugarcoating it, I guess, in a sense, like, no, everything's fine, everything's fine. Okay, that's great if it is, but if it's not, it's okay that it's not. So I think,
Yes.
organizationally, we have to be open to, and people in leadership positions need to be open to hearing what's going great and also hearing what's challenging. Now, with the challenges, okay, so what can we do? Then we got to pivot to, okay,
Right.
so where can we go?
Right.
What are we going to do about this, right?
Yes.
It's not simply partaking in which is important too, to partake in the exercise of, okay, what's the challenge? It's important to get that out, but now what can we do to help, right? And so that's, part of it. And some of it would be just like, yeah, like this is a really tough intervention and we're going to stay the course potentially, or maybe we're
Right.
missing this or maybe we're missing that. So I think that's part of it. That's one piece. When we look at like, continuous improvement, we also think about the language that we use. So instead of like, what's wrong, sometimes we'll say, well, what can we do even better? Because
I
we're
love
doing a
that.
lot of great things. We can do better. We can always do better. Instead of I have to, like I get to. Like it's
Yes.
what which way, even when it's tough, I really thank goodness this client is here. It's kind of funny, but like, thank goodness he's demonstrating these challenges, or she is, or they, whatever, whomever is demonstrating
Yes.
these challenges here, because that means that we get to help them.
Mm.
That's the beauty, because if they weren't doing it here, then that's a different type, even the exhibiting in the community. So, you know, no, nobody is perfect at this, but we do try to be mindful of talking about it, and then how do we help support, continuous improvement in the organization, or at an individual level, how do we support people?
And I think it's
Absolutely.
great that you create, and this is so important, I think, in any healthy organization, creating a culture where you can say, this isn't great.
Mhm.
We could be better here.
Yeah,
This is a problem, because
yeah,
otherwise it becomes a very toxic workplace, right? Like if it always has to be positive and we can never talk about the things that we're struggling with, that's not healthy. And talking about the things we struggle with doesn't mean
Mhm.
complaining, right? It can mean
Right.
absolutely great problem solving and continuous growth in this mindset of none of us know it all. None of us get it right every day. And so as a leader, I think when we speak those things like, hey, I'm sorry, I messed up. I didn't do that well.
yeah,
I wish I had done something differently, and I want to talk about that. I think that, to your point, Nancy, models such authenticity. And there's a quote that I love that says, be so authentically yourself that everyone else feels safe to be themselves as well.
Mm.
And I love that idea. Like, if you can truly say, yeah, I messed up, and it doesn't make me a bad person, you know what it makes me? Human. Like, it makes me human, and it's okay to be human. We're all human. So I think you bring up such a good point in trying to create
Mhm.
cultures where we can do that and be real with each other.
yeah. I think that's actually important as a profession, that
Yes.
we need to be able to say, what can we do even better?
Mm,
But
Right.
also acknowledge the wonderful things like that we've done as a profession. And I think we have some important work to do in that
Mhm.
regard as a
Mhm.
field,
yes.
um, without, saying, well, the field is, sometimes you hear, I call them myths about ABA, right? The
Yes.
myths, like this is
Yes.
no good or that's no good. Can we always do better? Can we evolve? Can we stand on the shoulders of some incredible behavior analysts? Absolutely. Did they do perfect when they did whatever they did at the time? No, but we sure, as a field, did amazing work. The only way we can
Yes.
evolve is by having conversations about what we can do
Yes.
better. That is in no way dismissive about any of the wonderful historical gains we've made as a field. And I hope that we
Absolutely.
continue to have those conversations and celebrate as you guys do. I love the Hall of Fame. We should be celebrating the wonderful work that so many people, so many incredible women, in the case of WIBA, did in the past, in the context under which they did it is just
Yes.
remarkable.
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 Yes.
Absolutely. And it's that humility that we all need to have. And that we're all growing and learning from what we've done previously, what's happening right now, that ongoing growth is so important. And it's not just waiting for it to come to you, it's going out and seeking it, whether it's the Women Behaving Boldly conference, the WIBA conference, the podcasts, the other conferences, the journals, articles. We can't wait for it to fall in our laps, but to go out and seek it is so important, I think, for us as professionals and for us as a field. And I'm wondering, Nancy, if you can share about your current work. What what are you doing?
So yes, very exciting things, and I would say I have been inspired by some wonderful women in behavior analysis who set the path for me to, and many others that have been involved in some of the research that I've done. And so, huge shout out to some of them are my mentors, that really influenced me. I was very blessed to work with Dr. Linda LeBlanc, Dr. Mary Jane Weiss, who are two incredible women in behavior analysis that really have really influenced and shaped the way I think about who the client is. And so in our case, we work with kids and teens with autism, but the client to us is so much more than they're important too. But we certainly think a lot about how can we involve the family in the process. And so because of wonderful women like them and thinking about, well, how can we integrate compassionate care skills even more into our profession? We are all compassionate, all of us as behavior analysts. I truly
Mm-hmm.
believe that we would not be in this field for any other reason, but there are idiosyncratic considerations when it comes to how to apply that and integrate that on an individual family level. And so that's where, the inspiration for some of the research that I was very blessed to do through my work at Endicott and continue to do. And what we're thinking about is this: how can we best involve the families? We think often about assessment when it comes to the client. In our case, we work with kids and teens with autism. So we're thinking, okay, when they come into services, what's the baseline for them? Where are their skills? That's super duper important. What do we want to develop? What do we need to support in terms of reduction, that might be harmful for them? How do we replace that with, important skills that will make a meaningful difference in their lives? So that's all, very important considerations, and we should continue to do so. But there's another factor that we need to think about at the beginning of services and throughout. And that is, well, what does the family think about all this? How do we integrate them into services? What matters to them? What's going to work for them? How are we going to work together? What are their reinforcers? All these different pieces. So we certainly found that there are so many behavior analysts that agree this is so super important to do, and they want to do it, and many do it in various ways, depending on who you were fortunate enough to have as a mentor when you were learning in the field, or even throughout your professional journey, who you've come in contact with. People do think about different ways of integrating compassionate care skills into their work, and in this case involving family. But the outcomes of that vary. Some people have reported to us, well, it's just I do this because I started this ad hoc thing, but I don't really have any formalized way of figuring out how to best involve the family. And so that's where this work came in. That's sort of like the pre-discussion to how we got to where we did in terms of research. So we set out to, myself and then my incredible doctoral advisor, Dr. Mary Jane Weiss,
Mm-hmm.
we set out to develop a tool to help practitioners ask questions, open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are a beautiful thing. Let's just talk to families
Yes.
in a semi-structured way about how we can best involve them in treatment. And so that's what we did. And I'll say this as a little a little preview to the discussion is we used a lot of qualitative data. We did this systematically. We did this through qualitative data. And I would suggest to all those that might go, "Oh, qualitative, I don't know, it's a little scary, unsystematic, that in fact it can be used. It's a wonderful thing. It can be used to enhance, it can be used to support quantitative data. And so don't be scared. It's a wonderful thing, and it can really be eye-opening. And that's what I'm looking forward to even sharing some of the feedback that we receive from families through this research, through open-ended questions, some of the answers that they gave us with, to this day, I mean, this was a couple years back that the research was conducted. Of course, it takes, multiple years to conduct it and analyze it, and ultimately we're fortunate to publish it in Behavior Analysis and Practice. But some of the, yes, we aggregated and summarized the qualitative data in a very systematic way. Even the individual responses that some of the families, well, all of them gave in different ways, stick with me to this day.
Mm.
Just really, it's incredible. Incredible some of the things that they shared. And I hope that that will help practitioners do even better when it comes to the application of compassionate care skills.
You bring up such a good point because, one of our dimensions, like the idea of having socially valid impact, right? Like we're not just changing behavior to change behavior, but the applied nature of our science is that we're making meaningful differences, right? And that qualitative data, um, that helps us understand that part, right? Like, to hear from the family, did this impact the quality of your life? If we took tantrums from 10 a day to 4 a day, that's a great big jump, but 4 a day is still a lot. If you're tearing up or engaging in self injury, that may not yet be a very socially significant impact. And so I think the idea of qualitative data, having the family talk about, like, what does this mean to us? What would it look like to have the quality of our life changed is critically important. I mean, it's why we do what we do, isn't it? I mean, to truly make a difference in the world. And so I think that you bring up such a good point that qualitative data gives us access to that and helps us understand the context in which our work shows up, how we show up as a profession. If we're doing it just for science and not to make those changes, how are we going to know that if we're not asking?
Exactly. And what we found, well, I was very fortunate to be a part of a survey study that Dr. LeBlanc, Dr. Taylor, and I did. And, a number of different results were published from that study. But one of the pieces that we found when we surveyed professionals, behavior analysts, was that they want to hear, they want to help support, they want to work through. In this case, there was, a particular question around, dealing with emotions, tough challenges that practitioners may face. Um, and kudos to the behavior analysts who said, we want to do this. We know it's important. Sometimes we don't know how. And so
Hmm.
that's where also we thought, okay, can we help with a tool? This is not the end all and be all tool. This is one of hopefully many tools that we can provide to professionals in the field to help support this. And a second piece to this is to your point, Janet, about the social validity piece. It's not just about asking after it happens, like, does this matter? That's important. Do the outcomes matter? But let's ask on the front end. Let's ask
Yes.
as our clients are coming into services, whomever that might be for each behavior analyst, what would a meaningful outcome look like to you before we even start? So
Yes.
we understand where the goalpost is
Yes,
and take it from
absolutely.
there and have those conversations.
And
I
can I
think
take it back? Oh, sorry, Lisa. No, you go ahead.
I think it's important to ask for that input and that feedback throughout the process, right?
Yes.
And to have that ongoing conversation and building that relationship allows us to do so much more in a way that a family is experiencing. So what I found in my work with school teams, where is families, we may be making such great progress in the school, but at home it's a disaster still, and the families are still so enmeshed in tantrums or, just in a lot of the behaviors that we don't want to see continue and less skill development. And so they're hearing this at school and they're still disgruntled and the school does not, it's this whole disconnect. And I share with people, well, that's because they're not experiencing the same
Mhm.
gains. And
Yeah.
so we need to continue to have those conversations and figure out the resources, in the community, within our space, that we can help them experience some goals. And that just creates positivity and reinforcers and so many opportunities for that individual to make so much more progress than if we continue to work as silos. It just is not gonna, it just doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. So I so appreciate,
Mhm.
yeah, all of the work that you're doing. And I'm excited to hear about your talk at Women Behaving Boldly Conference. And so, why for you is talking about this so important at this conference? But,
I, you know, I think it goes back to really making that difference. We all set
yes,
out in our careers, I do believe this in one way or another, when you're committed to the profession, the field, the science of behavior analysis, all of us in one way or another are looking to make the world a better place,
yes,
to, support those that we serve, help them live their best lives. And
Mhm.
and we do such a great job at that. And and at the same time, we recognize the gaps where we how we can evolve as a field. And I hope that this talk will help behavior analysts who are listening add one more tool to their,
yes.
to their repertoire of a way that can help support their work with the families they serve, with the communities that they serve, and something tangible that they can walk away with something tangible. It's a free tool. We published our study, and the tool is a part of the supplemental information, and I hope that people can use it and integrate it into their practice, and that ultimately serves to help their clients, the families, the community at large even more.
Well, thank you so much for doing that incredible work. And I really look forward to hearing about your talk. I know Janet, you're also, you guys can't see us on the podcast, but we're shaking our heads and we're, practically jumping up and down to
Yeah.
have the opportunity to hear Nancy talk about all of this.
Yeah, Nancy, Dr. Marchese, I just want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and your research and just your obvious passion for our science, our field, and just making us, all of us, better, right?
Yes.
Like a rising tide lifts all the boats. So if we each are one of those that helps to lift others up, you know, all of us come along. So thank you for being such a bold woman doing amazing work
Yes.
and making us all better. I cannot wait to learn from you. And I'm just so grateful for your time today.
Thank you guys for all you're doing, all the great work that you're doing to spread the word and support and raise up the community. I think it's wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, and we've been talking to our guests about, hopefully having the opportunity to meet, at that WIBA conference in person in Chicago in July and at other conferences. We are building this amazing supportive community of behavior analysts who are really out there doing wonderful things. So appreciate both of you being here. This has been a special series of Behind the ABA Talk podcast with our incredible guest, Dr. Nancy Marchese, and our wonderful co-host, Janet Lund. And Janet, please tell us about our discount code for the Women Behaving Boldly conference.
So hopefully this functions as a reinforcer for listening, as taking your time and being here with us. We want to give you a special discount code to thank you for going above and beyond and getting to know our amazing speakers. So if you go to the WIBA.com and register for the conference, if you put in the coupon code section podcast 88, It will take the cost of these 22 speakers from $99, which I think is an incredible price, down to $88. So thank you for just listening and learning and being a behavior analyst that cares to kind of learn about the person behind their amazing brain. So, Nancy, thank you for the time. Lisa, thank you for letting me do this with you.
Oh, it's been so much fun, and I can't wait for the conference, January 15th and 16th. And you all do not want to miss it for sure. And this has been a great podcast. So thanks to all of you, and a special thank you to my podcast producer, Cole Asher Selznick. And to everybody, have a happy holidays, and we will see you all in the new year. Thank you.